And
Hey, Daddy, this is the man of the champions, Bill Fonzie Alfonso, giving a shout out to something else. Something else, Daddy.
This is Nicole Matana, Great Warrior Wolf, and you are listening to Something Else.
I'm Tony Cini, and you're listening to Something Else.
Hey everybody, it's Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, and you are listening to Something Else with Aria.
And welcome to episode number 262 of Something Else. Feast your ear holes on this week's episode as we take a look at NWA Total Nonstop Action number 79 from January 21st, 2004. My name is Aria, and joining me, as always, is the violent jade of my shaggy two dope. It's Cindy. Cindy, you're back, and you picked a hell of a week to come back for.
Trey, you want to just take my spot from here on out?
To imagine 2 years ago when I had the idea to do this show, I posted on Twitter, hey, does anybody want to review TNA with me? And you beat Trey to responding by a couple minutes, and so you ended up with this job, and he ended up with Mid-South, World Class, and Smoky Mountain. Looking back, it may have been the worst decision of your career.
No, I have had worse.
Well, it's TNA. We're in January 2004. And normally we start these shows by telling you what else is happening this week in TNA. However, this week in TNA, it's more to do with what happens during this show. So we're going to wait till the end of this week's episode to tell you what is going on this week in Total Nonstop Action. Now,
so we're just diving right into the shit head first, huh?
Oh, you can't end it if you don't start it.
Yep.
Did you watch last week's show?
Yes, I did.
I was saying you missed the one show, the closest we had to a good show, this month so far, anyway.
Oh, trust me, that was the only show that you could quantify as being good.
Good, of course, being a subjective term, compared to any other wrestling show, perhaps in the history of the world. Good would not be the word that would be used to describe it. But for 1 week and 1 week only, we could describe that as not the worst shit we've seen this month.
Right.
All right. So we're talking again January 21st, 2004. We officially have less than 8 months left until Jeff versus Jeff at the fairgrounds on September 8th.
Oh, you mean the Jeff Brady match?
Yes. So this show begins with hidden camera footage from last week where Mike Tenay and Don West were talking, where Don West was admonishing him for getting involved at the end of the main event last week. And Mike said it was just too damn important to stay out of. Now, last week, my biggest bone of contention with this was that there is interference in almost every fucking match in TNA, and Mike Tenay does not give two shits. There's been interference in almost every world title change, almost every title change period in this company's history, and Mike Tenay hasn't given a shit. However, whether or not Eric Watts gets to keep his job is important enough that Mike Tenay has to stand up out of his seat and call out the injustices of what happens.
I think it's mainly because that the current story is that the Jarrett Tenay rivalry is really, really palpable right now, even though a match will never happen because it's already been agreed upon that Tenay does not wrestle. He's not even supposed to lay hands on Tenay. or was that just Don West
Well,
after?
this is also how you can see that Jerry Jarrett has almost nothing to do with the show because he was adamant that Mike Tenay stays out of the bullshit.
Mhm.
And, you know, Mike Tenay is not out of the bullshit. Um, so after that, we had Eric Watts doing his thing. The heels did their thing in their locker room. And then we had a pre-taped video. And it's important to emphasize it's a pre-taped video where Mike Tenay did a voiceover reading a letter by TNA management saying that next week Eric Watts will wrestle Don Callis and the loser will lose his position as an authority figure in TNA. And then I guarantee next week I'm going to have a lot to say about this. But
Oh, I
then,
know how that match ends. You're,
well,
I'm. That's why I told you that it all depends on what happens to the NFC title game.
to
Because I want to give you as much runway space as you can to go off.
to guarantee that there is no interference in the match between Eric Watts and Don Callis next week, everybody will be at ringside and handcuffed to each other to make sure that nobody can interfere. Geez, I bet nobody interferes now. You know, the best way to make sure nobody interferes is that 50 people standing at the ringside, you know.
Yeah, I mean, what could
So,
possibly go wrong?
so we might as well rip off the Band-Aid right at the start. A few weeks ago, we mentioned that TNA was negotiating with the Insane Clown Posse to come in and work a program. Those negotiations, who knows when not they're complete, but the Insane Clown Posse were at this show. They did not wrestle on this show. They did not do. I guess they kind of did an angle towards the end, but they really had nothing to do with this show except that they showed up before the show with a group of their fans and they partied before the show. And approximately 100 of their juggalos showed up. Now, the positive, and I'm going to get the lone positive of this out of the way. The positive is they made a lot of noise during this show. And especially considering that these shows have been dead of late, that part is a positive. This show was not dead. There was a lot of crowd noise on this show. The problem is they hijacked the whole fucking show. With actually two exceptions that we'll get to. With two exceptions, the Insane Clown Posse and their fans hijacked this entire fucking show, and it wasn't even like, remember when like that Raw after WrestleMania when Dolph Ziggler cashed in Money in the Bank? Like that whole show was the fun, hey, look, we're gonna like just take over this show and sing Fandango's theme and everything else. This was not that.
Oh hell no! We need to clarify. What's the? I can't believe I'm using this terminology. The good type of crowd hijacking and the bad type of crowd hijacking. The good type of crowd hijacking is that if they're directly referencing something about the show. I mean, the yes chants, the CM Punk chants. I mean, they're directly referencing the product, whether the guy is there or not. I mean, they're at least focused on the product. The bad type of crowd hijacking is what we saw here, where the crowd was mostly chanting like ICP when they're not in the ring or anything. I mean, the ICP chants go on throughout the entire show, or it felt like it went through the entire show.
They weren't even like the Insane Clown Posse themselves. I guess they were backstage. because they didn't even come out until near the end of the show to sit in the crowd.
Right.
It's like these were just about 100 people directly across from the hard camera that made this show more unwatchable than usual.
Oh yeah. How many times did they tell you fuck this show in our messenger chat? I think 2-3 times.
So after the intro, and they still have the Macho Man Randy Savage rap intro on this show, which it's hilarious because in the video intro of the show, they have Lex Luger, who is not on this show, at least as anything close to being a regular. They have X, who isn't on the show anymore. And they just have a whole bunch of stuff that it's like none of this stuff has anything to do with what the show you're about to watch is. Honestly, they'd be better off if they did it something closer to what AEW did for Collision when that started, where it's like, okay, here's our matches on Collision, so we're gonna like splice it into the intro footage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as we'll get to, the main event of this show, the match, never comes out of Mike Tenay or Don West's mouths until the match actually happens. And there is a lot of confusion, at least on my behalf, as to what the fuck the main event of this show was. In fact, there were several matches in this show that were completely different than I thought they were based on what they were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, one match I think was supposed to be a regular style match. And I think that was AMW versus the Red Shirts.
Well, that was,
Yeah.
you know.
But there's other stuff. We're gonna spend too much time. Let's just talk about this first opening segment. We'll talk more about the Juggalos later.
So Eric Watts is standing in the ring with Goldilocks, and he said he's here to announce who the captain for Team TNA will be for the America's X Cup. And oh boy, do I have some shit to say about that. But instead, before doing that, he said he just found out about his match next week against Don Callis. So Mike Tenay, who did a pre-taped video, did not go and tell Eric Watts about his match next week. Nobody apparently told Eric Watts about his match next week.
I mean, he's one of the authority figures. He should be one of the first people to know about these type of things. I mean, if he's directly reporting to the NWA board, I mean,
yeah, you know that
he should be one of the first people to know, not Tenay.
That corrupt NWA board. The first two people who should have been made aware, based purely on storyline, were Eric Watts and Don Callis, because it's their jobs to know. Anyway, he's going to kick Don Callis' ass. And then he said the captain of Team TNA would be someone who would piss off Don Callis and introduce Jerry Lynn, who has not been seen on this show since October when the Red Shirts kept throwing him out of the arena. Lynn thanked Eric for giving him the opportunity to be back, and he was happy to be back here. Out came Kid Cash, who rightfully pointed out that Eric Watts could have just brought Jerry Lynn back anytime he wanted to before now.
He might be a dick, but some dicks can make the best heel points, especially with stuff like that.
Well, all of a sudden, CM Punk's comments "stop me when I start telling lies" was going through my head at this point.
Oh, yeah.
So he said that Jerry Lynn single-handedly put the X Division on the map. He made AJ Styles a household name when AJ was a nobody. Cash said that when TNA loses the X Cup, Lynn will be sitting at home for another 6 months, and then asked Lynn to sign his loyalty petition, or Cash will kick his ass later in the show. Lynn took the petition and broke the clipboard over Cash's head. I gotta say though, when Lynn teased signing, Watts did not seem to care very much at all. Anyway, Lynn and Cash fought, and while Cash kicked Lynn's ass inside the ring, we were told that referee Mike Posey, who was standing on the floor, was doing everything he could to stop the fight. Anyway, Lynn made his comeback and threw Cash out of the ring. And despite Kid Cash threatening to kick Jerry Lynn's ass later in the show if he didn't sign, this is the last time Jerry Lynn is on the show this week.
That is correct.
And any thoughts on this thrilling opening segment here?
I mean, it was fine, but one thing that did take away from it was the Juggalos. We'll really talk more about them later.
Oh yeah,
But
they were just, like I said, they were hijacking the show.
mhm.
Go ahead.
But aside from that, it was just meh. Like, Jerry Lynn's not that great of a promo, anyways. I mean, it's pretty bad when the best person who could cut a promo in that segment is Eric Watts.
I'm gonna throw something at you for saying that. Kid Cash is a much better promo than Eric Watts. So we then get a picture of a jet that had a tiny TNA logo on it, implying that's how Johnny Fairplay was brought to the show.
But
I will bet you all my good body parts, that the ones that I want to keep, that TNA does not have its own private jet.
don't worry, I'm not gonna do that bet because you mentioning that little Photoshop. Okay, so we're gonna sidetrack a little bit here. I'm sorry, but
Wait, we're
but
gonna sidetrack? That's not something we do on this show.
oh, of course not. But this is a nice little distraction. So WWE put out a little video package of Dominic Mysterio walking into the AAA show and walking out of the AAA show. Um, it was pretty obvious it was AI. You want to know how?
Ow.
The belt that was supposed to represent the AAA mega title, it said AEW on it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was like, they could, and people coming on this, I'm like the same thing. You couldn't have paid one of your staffers like $30 to just get some stills from the show and just show him walking up the ramp with both titles. I mean, there is lazy and then there is fucking lazy, and that AI video was fucking lazy.
I said, I would think somebody would have that posted somewhere. I do not see it anywhere. But oh well. Um, so Jeff Jarrett is backstage on the phone with Isaac Stenenbaum, who said there's nothing he can do to get Callis out of next week's match. Now, I was about to go on a rant here about how Jarrett's lawyer was Tom Stenenbaum, not Isaac, when we find out that Isaac is his brother. Why do we now need the distorted voice of a second lawyer? And I'm sure that will be explained right after how we find out how removing Eric Watts as director of authority fixes all the problems with the corrupt NWA board of directors. Kid Cash ran in to complain, and Jarrett ordered him to get Sonny Siaki's agreement, since Siaki has turned him down now 3 weeks in a row. As I mentioned last week, Siaki turned him down once 2 weeks ago, and it hasn't been brought up since. And before I say, well, maybe it was on Explosion, I don't care. If it was important, we would have seen it on this show. And we'll get to that, later on here. So,
Yeah, and I want to talk about this Isaac Stenenbaum. I mean, I think I know who was playing him. It had to be like Robert
T.
Gibson
Jr.
No,
it was the same guy who does the regular voice. I don't know why they pretended it was somebody else. Like
I mean,
that
the
was
cadence was weird, so I thought it was Robert Gibson doing a voice.
God no. Like, but believe me, if it was Robert Gibson, you'd be able to tell.
Why he'd stumble over himself.
No, he would. Uh, the rock, we're the Rock and Roll Express. He has a gruff voice. Like, there's a reason Ricky cut all of his promos. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it,
Yeah.
Robert talks about as often as Mustafa does for the gangsters.
Yeah, Mustafa's
So
always there going, "We're gonna kick you."
Hudson began yelling about a street fight between Jeff Jarrett and El Leon tonight, which was interesting because I was pretty sure when Eric Watts was talking earlier about AJ getting a world title match that Jeff Jarrett was taking on AJ Styles for the world title tonight, which
I
apparently
thought
is
so
not
too.
happening.
Oh, and spoiler alert, it doesn't.
I was gonna say, does that fucking match ever happen? Like, because next week it's not. The week after, I'll bet my left arm it will not happen in 2 weeks. In 3 weeks is the X Cup, and then in like 4 weeks is like I think it's the start of the Chris Harris world title push. So AJ is somewhere. He's still owed a TNA title match. Maybe that'll be on AMC next week.
Oh, I know the
Uh,
bullshit that they do to work around that one, and uh,
we finally go to the ring for our first match, The Gathering with Jim Mitchell versus the Sandman and Balls Mahoney. Now, in 2007 on WWE ECW, there was a storyline where Balls Mahoney spent months trying to go on a date with Kelly Kelly. Then, after she agreed to it, there was a skit a few weeks later where Balls told Punk how it went. I would have bet you $1 million that that was the only time CM Punk ever interacted with Balls Mahoney on television. I would have been wrong. Now, as we mentioned now multiple times, and we'll mention multiple more times, the fucking Juggalos hijacked this show. Do you want to know what one of the two times they did not hijack this show was? Right here.
when
Because the Sandman became the smartest person on this show because he went into the crowd and drank with them during his entrance. And that kept them from hijacking this match. Balls was wearing a singlet, which was a weirder sight than him when he was Santa Claus. A minute into this match, we were informed that this is a Texas Tornado match, thus keeping us from seeing Balls Mahoney and the Sandman in a traditional tag team match. As Punk and Julio hit the demolition decapitation on Balls for the pin, Tenay was speed reading the names of Team TNA for the America's X Cup, which
way
by
to
the way,
bury it, team and TNA.
well, we'll see. It's a burial of the whole fucking thing. Team TNA, Jerry Lynn, Chris Sabin, Elix Skipper, and Sanjay Dutt. That is the only time it gets said during this show, and it happens during the finish of this tag match. And you would think because they plug the America's X Cup at the end of the show, but at this point, they don't even tell you what it is. Like, I know what it is because I know what it is, but like they don't tell you. It sounds like a tournament like the Super X Cup was. Like they tell you it's a team competition, but they don't say what that is. And
Yeah, there are no rules or anything like that.
so after the match, the Gathering held up a bag of what we assume were thumbtacks before strobe lighting broke out and Raven's distorted voice saying, quote the Raven repeatedly, which let Sandman lay Punk out with a white Russian leg sweep, and then both Punk and Julio ran away before Sandman could cane the hell out of both of them. This was a bad match to be the first match on the show. Although when we get throughout the rest of the show, there really wasn't a good option here.
Mm-mm.
0.5 out of 10.
I gave it a 1 out of 10. At least Sandman pacified the audience, so it wasn't too unbearable.
Well, that's why it
So
wasn't a 0.
uh, point 0.5 for the. I had it broken down. 0.5 for Sandman pacifying the audience, and 0.5 for the match itself. By the
So at
way,
this point, mhm.
spoiler alert: this is Balls Mahoney's first and last appearance that he'll have during this review show. He will come back to TNA for one shot at Hardcore Justice 2010, teaming up with his tag team partner Axel Rotten. But because of the aversion of saying the word balls,
Nope, had nothing to do with that.
just play along.
This was the Jerry McDevitt legal letter.
Oh, so he had to be referred to as cojones.
Cojones, yes. Because TNA, they brought it on themselves. They did the ECW reunion show without saying ECW, but encouraged the fans to chant ECW and then put that chant in the commercial for the show. Yeah.
And then they had to change it to EV2, EV2, which never caught on.
That was the name of the worst, but they tried to get them to chant EV 2.0. Like that was that.
That was worse.
By the way, at this point, I was just tired of this show 30 minutes in, literally and
Yeah.
figuratively. I literally took a 90-minute nap before waking up to finish this show, which made it even worse because I was still fucking watching the show. It felt like 4 hours after I began watching it. So Scott Hudson was now with Glenn Gilberti and David Young. Gilberti said Simon and Swinger will be working on the docks for $3.35 an hour without him. Hey, minimum wage in 2004 was $5.15. Get it right, motherfucker. Gilberti said that either Simon or Swinger signed the Jeff Jarrett loyalty contract and told Hudson to go find out who. David Young and Glenn Gilberti versus Simon Diamond and Johnny Swinger. Gilberti didn't want to get in the ring while Simon had the advantage. The Juggalos were distracted by something off camera. My guess is one of the fans got thrown out since nobody else gave a shit. Gilberti pulled down his knee pad and missed a middle rope knee drop before making the hot tag. Before Simon made the hot tag to Swinger. Simon then pinned David Young with a problem solver, and the Juggalos ruined this match by chanting for ICP. Literally, as soon as the bell rang to end this match, Simon and Swinger leave, which was the shock to me because I thought Swinger was turning on him here because that's coming. I don't know when, but that's coming. And, anybody like could fucking see this one here. But anyway, as soon as the bell rang, they disappear, and Kid Cash dragged Sarah the ticket-taking lady to the ring and began choking her to her knees before forcing her to sign once again. Once again, Tiny, the timekeeper, got in the ring and once again took his shirt off before attacking Cash. Cash broke his second clipboard of the show over Tiny's head. How many clipboards does he have? This is not the last one we see on the show this week. Chris Vaughn then ran down to prevent Glenn Gilberti from giving Sarah a pile driver, but he got stomped on by the three heels, and Don Harris made the save. This is where I wrote, is Russo back? And we'll get to that at the end of the show. As for the match, 3.0 out of 10. Exactly
what I gave it. I mean, who would have thunk that a decent match, it only went, 5 minutes or so?
I don't even know if it went 5 minutes.
But it was what you wanted in this type of 5-minute match. I mean, Swinger and Diamond are sick and tired of David Young blowing everything. They get the measure of revenge by giving him a problem solver, and they get out of here. I know they wanted to go against, they wanted to get a shot at Disco, but they probably figured
This was a
maybe
perfectly fine opening match. That was the second match on the show.
right. This and the, I think to fix the first 35 minutes of this show, you flip this match and the Punk Gathering match.
I mean,
The
it, it
Gathering, Sandman, and the show could fuck off. Oh, and speaking of your statement that he was on Explosion, so who gives a shit? We get some Explosion footage with Sonny Siaki taking a shit.
yes, which was another one of those signs that Russo's back because Sonny Siaki is taking a shit on Explosion and being harassed by Trinity and Kid Cash. Maybe this should have aired before Jarrett yelled at Cash earlier. Siaki again refused to sign under advisement and then left the bathroom without washing his hands, but Trinity did sign. Now, when Jeff Jarrett ordered Kid Cash to make Sonny Siaki sign or else, I assumed that meant Sonny Siaki, especially since Kid Cash was wearing his gear all night, I assumed that meant that Sonny Siaki was about to take on Kid Cash. Scott Hudson was now with Sonny Siaki and Trinity to talk about Sonny Siaki's match with D'Lo Brown, of all fucking people. Anyway, when Trinity signed, it was after Siaki left the bathroom without washing his hands. And this is how Siaki found out, proving that for once, somebody actually watched something that happens on this show. They didn't actually watch the TV show because, they had better shit to do with their lives, but they did watch something. And he yelled at Trinity for signing and told her to stay out of his match with D'Lo Brown. Trinity then said she was going to go out anyway. Sonny Siaki versus D'Lo Brown. Trinity did not come out for this match. We randomly got a chant of Siaki sucks, but since not a single person in front of the camera was moving their lips, I refuse to believe that that was anything but a piped-in chant. Whether or not it was piped in, it was quickly overtaken with a dueling chant of ICP sucks, which was the only time the whole night that the rest of the crowd tried to shout them down. Trinity came out for the finish. Siaki threw a conveniently placed chair into the ring, but D'Lo drop kicked it into his face. Rudy Charles snatched the chair out of D'Lo's hands and somehow missed Trinity, giving D'Lo a tornado DDT. Despite that, D'Lo then pinned him with a sky high. Best match of the show so far, but that is faint praise. After the match, Kid Cash tried. Yes. After the match, Kid Cash tried to get Siaki to sign again. Siaki refused to and threw the clipboard away. Cash slapped Siaki but got his ass kicked. Trinity pulled Siaki off and kicked him in the head. Trinity gave him a moonsault. Kid Cash reached out for a hug. But hey, there is the tiniest fucking bit of continuity in TNA storylines. I can't believe this, but not only did they remember that Kid Cash used to abuse Trinity, they brought it up here, and even though they're now on the same side, Trinity walked out and did not give Kid Cash a hug. I gave this match a 4.5 out of 10.
One brain cell we're sharing right now because that's exactly what I gave it, 4.5, for those exact same reasons. I mean, it was at least a more competent match than Sonny Siaki's used to putting on because he's actually in there with someone who's more his size and
Siaki's
somebody
the king of the Siaki's the king of the 2 to 2.5 star match.
Yeah, I mean,
but
he's perfect in a role where I wouldn't mind making him a mid card champion. I mean, he would do in a pinch. Like
If TNA had the TV title at this point, then yes, you could have put the TV title on Sonny Siaki. Um, but they don't, and he's not. We've seen that you should not put the X Division title on him, and he is sure as hell never going to be in the consideration for the world title.
no, that one is
And,
long gone.
and considering they gave what's his name, Disco Inferno, a pay-per-view world title match, and Sonny Siaki never even whiffed at that. That tells you everything you need to know about the thoughts of Sonny Siaki.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he won a number one contendership match for the world title, or was even in a number one contendership match for the world title.
I'm sure at some point he was, you know. I'm sure when they do like any of the gauntlets for a world title shot, I'm sure he's in one of them.
He probably is, but I don't know.
Scott Hudson is in Jeff Jarrett's locker room once again. Jarrett talked up the red shirts and Callis. Trinity walked in and says she wants nothing to do with Cash. Jarrett told off Cash, and Hudson said he was going to go. I'm sorry, Jarrett told off Cash and Hudson. And what? Oh, my, I fucked that up. Jarrett told off Cash, and Callis said he was going to get the guest of the evening. We forgot to mention this earlier, but before the Sonny Siaki segment, they showed a bunch of women getting out of a limo.
And one of them getting pulled back in, presumably to be
Boinked.
Yeah.
So in the 6 minutes that match went between D'Lo and Sonny Siaki, Johnny Fairplay boinked a woman.
Only 6 minutes.
I
amateur.
Made it. Shane Douglas and Michael Shane with Tracy versus Christopher Daniels and Elix Skipper. Now I was getting ready to throw a tantrum here because last week they announced that it was a handicap match with Shane 1.0 versus Daniels and Skipper. And while it was never explicitly stated, it was heavily implied that Shane 2.0 would be wrestling Sabin. As I typed that out, Tenay announced that the new franchise used, and I quote, political maneuverings to make this a fair fight. What an awful thing for the heels to want to have a fair fight.
Yeah,
and actually, both teams are heels. And like I was thinking about this, like, are Triple X baby faces? Like, when the hell did they turn baby face if they were?
I mean, probably has to deal with the level of heelness. I mean, if you're a wrestling fan, who are you going to hate more? Shane Douglas or Christopher Daniels? Elix Skipper or Christopher Daniels?
Well, Elix Skipper and Christopher Daniels are on the same team, so.
I mean, Elix Skipper or Shane Douglas?
The issue is, like, it's honestly like this Chris Sabin babyface turn. Chris Sabin turned babyface because 1 week he came out of the other tunnel. You know, that was it. And Triple X, especially this match, they're booked like baby faces. And there was never any babyface turn. You know, like Elix Skipper, the last time he really had promo time on the show, he was a heel. Christopher Daniels has always been a heel. Low key, at best, has been a tweener. But during this match, remember how we mentioned that Team TNA got plugged at the finish of the Gathering match? Well, at least they didn't wait till the finish of this match. Mike Tenay told us in rapid succession that Team AAA for America's X Cup would be Juventud Guerrera, Hector Garza, Abismo Negro, and Mr. Aguila. And he said it so quickly and moved on with his life that I had to rewind and rewatch just to get all four names down.
Man, he said it so fast that I actually missed it.
Why couldn't they announce these teams in between matches? Did you notice they never did an on camera with Tenay and West on this show until the very end when they plugged next week's show?
Something had to have gone too long, and I'm thinking it was that opening segment with Watts, Lynn, and Cash.
Or like, but they still could have squeezed it in at some point, not during important matches. I guess this barely counts as an important match, but you know, they get the heat on Skipper, and Douglas used that full Nelson Crippler crossface he debuted last week, but Daniels broke it up. Douglas and Tracy randomly set up 4 chairs next to each other outside the ring, conveniently placed in a spot where if a member of his team bumped off the apron, that's where they'd fall. Daniels got the hot tag, I guess, and Michael almost immediately raked his eyes. Douglas used the skull crushing finale, and Elix Skipper decided now was the time to make this a 4-way brawl. While selling outside the ring, Douglas repositioned one of the chairs that had fallen over. Skipper went to splash Douglas onto the chairs because he placed Douglas on there, but Tracy jumped on Skipper's back while they were on the middle rope, and they fell off the middle rope through the chairs that Douglas had conveniently scurried off of. And then in the ring, Douglas got his chain out and KO'd Daniels, letting Michael pin him. And this is where I wrote, I guess Russo may not be truly back because if he was, Skipper would have been the one behind Tracy, and Tracy would have fallen first into the chairs instead of Skipper more or less protecting her on the way down. But I think Tracy still hurt her arm.
Yeah, and that was legit too because she would be in a cast for the next few weeks or months.
There you go. And then Mike Tenay, and I swear I love Mike Tenay, but TNA brings out the worst in Mike Tenay. Mike Tenay, they showed a replay of this. And like I said, Shane Douglas was laying on the chairs. And when Elix Skipper and Tracy came off, he moved out of the way. Mike Tenay called him a coward for moving out of the way. He was a coward for not letting Elix Skipper splash him through 4 steel chairs.
I swear, this was a decent match, kind of killed by the commentary, especially at the end.
I didn't even know it was a decent match. Like Shane Douglas was in this match too much. It's like if this was Michael Shane versus Christopher Daniels and Elix Skipper with the occasional spot by Shane Douglas, it may have been a 4-star match, in the it might have been a 4-star match in the proper situation. And this week's show, it probably would have been a 3-star match. This was 3.5 out of 10, which
I gave it a 4 out of 10.
Yeah, if you need me to do the math, that's 1 3/4 stars.
So I was a little more generous. I gave it 2 stars, so whatever.
I imagine you like this next segment more than I did because you like 3 Live Crew more than I do. We had a video of 3 Live Crew making fun of most of the TNA tag teams. That is literally all I wrote.
Yeah, the jokes might have been funny in 2004, but they weren't.
I mean, it's hard to sit here and say that, they need to tell jokes that are going to work in 2026. But it's like, yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's like, EG is in because he's Jeff Jarrett's friend. Conan is here because he always has a good relationship with the Mexican promotions and can open up doors for that. Ron Killings is the person who's completely wasted by this and should be pushed as a top guy.
And he's stuck in purgatory. And I blame, and just his entire appeal gets wasted after the move to Orlando.
And and the funny thing is when 3LK breaks up, he's the one that gets fucked the most. Like, BG starts teaming with Billy Gunn, Conan does LAX, and Ron Killings does absolutely nothing.
No, he doesn't. And
Yeah.
he got
And
absolutely. You're right. He absolutely got fucked because you have Conan who had a tag team and one of them could work in the X division, i.e., Homicide. You have BG and Billy Gunn, or as they called him, Kip James.
who are there for the nostalgia element.
And
And
they didn't know
then you
what
have,
the fuck to do with Truth. I mean, he could work X
and,
Division. He could work. I'm pretty sure you can find him another tag team partner.
and the hilarious thing is that Vince Russo can do nothing but write comedy segments. Who in the past 15 years has proven that they can do comedy better than R-Truth?
Nobody.
It's like, as stupid as a lot of his shit is, like there's a lot of shit he does that is legitimately funny. Like when he came out for the Women's Royal Rumble that time and was like, "Where is everybody? Where are all the guys?" And you know, I giggled at that. And poor Valhalla, who got distracted and eliminated by that, because she otherwise would have won, I'm sure. You know,
Or at least would have been Final Four.
yeah. I don't even remember what Royal Rumble that was, but I'm sure she would have been there at the end.
2022?
So the Ronda Rousey Royal Rumble. Oh yeah, Sarah Logan could have kicked Ronda Rousey's ass, I'm sure, especially if this was a shoot. Um, because yeah, it's like, and Truth, like, hey, at least attention to detail. Truth did come out at that same number for the men's Royal Rumble, so there at least was that. Or the time he came out for the Royal Rumble and thought it was the Money in the Bank ladder match.
That was 2024?
Really? Time, I never say time flies, but yeah, it felt a lot longer ago than that. The Red Shirts versus America's Most Wanted in a number one contenders match. Now, I guess they've done this for a little while now, but this is when, like, the TNA graphics department and are not the greatest spellers in the world. I'm pretty sure they're the same people that worked in Mid South, who could never spell anyone's name right. But Red Shirts has been combined into one word. And they're not even called Red Shirts Security anymore, even though the Red Shirts have security written in big dumb letters on the back. Now, for those who need to recap of this feud, 2 weeks ago they had a street fight. Last week they had a strap match. And so, of course, the obvious choice for the third match in the feud, a straight rules tag match. Despite this match actually having rules, this match began with a wild brawl outside the ring, which at least made sense as to why a wild, out of control brawl would break down into a tag match. Now, of course, if the rules mattered, they wouldn't have rang the bell to start the match while all four guys were fighting outside. We are informed during this match that Kevin Northcutt was stabbed 11 times while working as a bouncer.
I believe
If
it.
if this is true, maybe he should have found somewhere else to work.
He did. He's working here. He's not going to get stabbed.
Well, unless he tries to double cross Carlito, then Carlito will get Jesus to do it.
Well, he doesn't have to worry about that, does he?
But I mean, if it helps, Jesus always managed to stab John Cena and not leave a mark. So I think most criminals would reach out to Jesus for you know advice on how to do that, because it's a lot easier to not get caught stabbing somebody if there's no mark left.
I mean, what the hell did he use?
I don't know, but it was the kind of knife that stabs somebody that makes them go to Australia to film a bad movie.
Oh
Um,
fuck. Yeah, that's when he went to film The Marine.
yep. So I don't know if James Storm got injured here or not. So they did a wacky double team here where Chris Harris held up Northcutt, and Storm was supposed to come up the top rope with a missile drop kick. Except he didn't. He came off the top rope and grazed Northcutt with one foot and landed awkwardly. And then the match kind of stopped while the referee and Harris checked on Storm. But then the match continued with the red shirts working on Storm's elbow. And then, if Storm wasn't really hurt, Legend did his best during this match to try to injure James Storm. As first he suplexed Storm into the turnbuckles, and Storm landed on his head, and then gave him a belly-to-belly overhead suplex where Storm landed on his elbow and shoulder. Harris got the hot tag, and even with the Juggalos hijacking the show, this was the first time the non-Juggalo crowd made enough noise during something wrestling related to overcome that. Storm, being the genius he is, immediately tagged himself back in. Not that that ends up mattering. We end up with a really fucked up spot here. Northcutt was holding Storm, and they were supposed to duck so they could backdrop Legend. And well, they didn't duck. And Legend still took the backdrop somehow. Storm and Legend fell out of the ring. Harris gave Northcutt a catatonic, which should not have counted, even if the referee had been in the ring. Outran the fucking Naturals of all people for their first appearance in 3 months. Andy Douglas threw powder in Harris's face. Chase Stevens then hit him with a chair, and Northcutt pinned Chris Harris, even though James Storm was the legal man. Parts of this match were the best match on this show, and other parts of this match really made sure that it wasn't. 3.5 out of 10.
Another 4 out of 10 for me. Um, Although I am kind of happy that we're getting the Naturals AMW feud. I mean, they work well together, and they did it beforehand in the local indies, mainly Burt Prentice's Pro Wrestling USA or something like that, or Championship Wrestling USA.
It's
He was
whatever
running at
Burt
the
Prentice
time.
was promoting that particular week. But the funny thing is,
Yeah,
this is now the third time Chase Stevens has been brought into the promotion, and for the third time, he's feuding with AMW. He literally does not able to feud with anybody else than AMW. But I had to laugh because for years, Brian Alvarez has made the joke that he had no idea which natural was which. Andy Douglas was wearing a t-shirt that said Andy Douglas in big stupid letters on the front of it. I should have went back to read the Figure 4 Weekly that week to see if Brian figured out which one was which. But I popped for Andy Douglas's Andy Douglas shirt.
it was so stupid that it actually turned out to be all right.
The Andy Douglas's shirt or something else.
The shirt.
Yes. Oh Lord, I'm right now slowly trying to pull up these old newsletters. But by the way, can I just say, and I try not to disparage, the site that I technically write for, but it is a pain in the ass to find newsletters on this site anymore. I I literally had to favorite the newsletter search page because that keeps disappearing. So to where to put in the date range you want to go for, and you have to do a date range now. You can't just click the year and whatnot they used to be able to do, which was so much easier. But here we are. Let's see. By the way, do you know what is coming up in WWE this week?
No.
The Chris Benoit Royal Rumble. Uh, Legitimately one of the best Royal Rumbles ever that will never ever be seen. Um,
It was a
so
great
okay, so
Rumble, but
yes, yeah,
um,
it will never get aired again.
no.
So Brian did actually remember their names. I don't remember if they actually said their individual names on the show or not, but Brian wrote suddenly, quote unquote, Andy Douglas and quote unquote Chase Stevens hit the ring and used a combination of a chair shot and powder to take him out, allowing Northcutt to get the pin. This killed the crowd dead. Uh,
Mm,
I think I said I gave it a 3.5. You gave it a 4, right?
yeah, so we're along the same lines. Just I don't know.
I'm rubbing off on you here, kid.
Lowered expectations.
If we see Chase Stevens with a dating video, we'll know that is where we're at. Scott Hudson was now with Jim Mitchell in The Gathering in Raven's lair. By the way, Raven hasn't been on the show in a month, but his lair keeps being put together with the lit candles and the chains everywhere. Who's doing that? Were CM Punk and Julio Dinero in charge of doing that? Like when they were his lackeys, and so they just keep doing it now?
Just to get into his head, yeah.
So Mitchell cut a promo on Sandman saying Sandman needs a partner. So Mitchell dared Raven to come out and play and dared Sandman to choose Raven to be his tag team partner. Punk also dared Sandman to bring Raven. And apparently we're just going to keep having Sandman versus The Gathering in tag team matches forever. Because, by the way, according to Dave, Raven's not supposed to come back until like the 25th of February for whatever reason. So if we're gonna, and they don't plug it for next week's show, but if we're gonna sit here and just have the Gathering versus the Sandman and Mystery Partner of the Week, that could almost be entertaining. You know, like what random ass person will the Sandman come out with every week to wrestle CM Punk and Julio Dinero, and it
Mm.
never works. One week they should have Cassidy Riley come out because Cassidy Riley did the Ravens lackey gimmick for like 5 minutes at one point.
Who was he? Was he Havoc or Martyr?
No, he was none of them. That was Kazarian, Michael Shane, and Johnny Devine.
Oh,
Cassidy Riley was like at the beginning of Spike TV. He was with Raven, but then they quickly got rid of him. Don Callis was in the ring, and man, oh man, Maddie, Don Callis beat the Juggalos at their own fucking game. Because Don Callis became the first person on this show to realize that while they're loud, he has a microphone and can be louder. And he yelled over them. He did not let them be louder than him. They paid to watch him, not the other way around. And he screamed over them, cutting a promo on Watts, saying just because he doesn't wrestle doesn't mean he can't. And this is where I wrote that he screamed so loud in the mic that the Juggalos shut up, which made Don Callis my new hero. And then he introduced Johnny Fairplay, who, by the way, finished third on Survivor Pearl Islands, losing to Sandra in Sandra's first win. And you remember who finished second in that season?
Scout.
It was, in fact, Scout, who got voted off and then got to re-enter the game in a stupid twist they did later on.
Yeah, her and Savage got
And she
back
only got
in.
voted. She only got voted in because the other people who were voted out didn't like her and didn't want her to be going on um the trip that all the non-jury members go on. Um, so during Fairplay's entrance, there's like muffled noise in the background. I'm like, what the hell is that muffled noise in the background? And I pressed pause and realized the muffled noise in the background wasn't muffled noise on the show. it was the police driving down my street and announcing there's a parking ban because of the snowstorm that we're in the middle of right now. And the good news is my car did not have to be moved because, well, I didn't know we were getting a snowstorm, but I try to always park on the sides of the road that if there is a snow ban, you're allowed to park on. Which, considering there's barely any parking, normally, like when we're allowed to use both sides of the street, snow bans fucking suck. Anyway, Johnny Fairplay was doing a out and out Andy Kaufman impression. The Juggalos started a "Who are you" chant, and Fairplay told him to ask his grandma. Fairplay started talking about what a big star he was, and I popped because the Juggalos began chanting ICP, and he was like, "I'm a bigger star than they are." The crowd is annoying when I find myself being a fan of something Johnny Fairplay says.
Yeah.
Okay. AJ Styles' music played. And this is the same theme song AJ Styles had since around September or October of 2002. The same theme song that, with slight modifications, he uses in TNA when he makes random appearances to this day. You know the theme song we're talking about. When his theme song began, Mike Tenay had no idea whose music this was.
Good lord. Tenay was
So,
on something this show.
I think he was distracted because he's going to be in this stupid.
Normally, I wouldn't call Mike Tenay a detriment to any wrestling show, except for tonight where he was.
Honestly, I think it's because he was concentrating on his stupid angle at the end of the show that he ended up fucking up a bit on this show. So AJ called Johnny Fairplay Carrot Top's evil twin and began calling out Jarrett. Fairplay grabbed him and turned him around. Callis asked AJ nicely to please get the hell out of the ring. At least Don Callis said please. AJ then gripped Callis up, and saying Fairplay hit AJ with a chair is generous. Johnny Fairplay ran a chair into where AJ was standing. AJ then responded by giving Johnny Fairplay a power bomb to end the segment. Now, I'm going to say this. If this was the only time Johnny Fairplay was going to be appearing on TNA, I'd call this segment a win. Because Survivor cast members have a very limited shelf life for popularity. Like, even back then, where 20 million people were watching Survivor on a weekly basis, it's like once the season was over, you're into the ether, people. Like, there's a new season coming in 2 months, and unless you're coming back on that season, like Sandra did, because the All-Star season's about to happen, or, Rupert or whatever, it's like nobody fucking remembers you. So if this was the only time Johnny Fairplay was going to be on the show, I would have called it a win because he came in, he was somebody with a national name, he still had attention, and still people knew who he was. He came in, and one of the big stars of TNA punked him the fuck out. And this was something that, well, TNA was also expecting it to end up on the big news outlets, and nobody gave a shit. But if this had been the only time Johnny Fairplay was going to be on the show, I would have called it a win. However, Johnny Fairplay is not going anywhere, at least anytime soon. No, ironically, though, Johnny Fairplay's second appearance is going to get his second appearance gets a lot of media, but it has nothing to do with him. Yeah, but we'll get to that next week. So we finally. Oh, you have anything you want to say about this Johnny Fairplay segment?
Okay, here's exactly what I wrote down. Callis is the ring, cuts promo, and Eric Watts, and drowns out the Juggalos, and brings out Johnny Fairplay. Fairplay cuts a promo that reminded me of David Arquette when he went heel. It was shit. AJ Styles comes out and tries to save the segment. He can't. It ends with him powerbombing Johnny Fairplay. a bit of light into a dim segment.
And AJ, I don't want to say he was trying to powerbomb Fairplay on top of the microphone on purpose, but the microphone was in the middle of the ring, and AJ was not pointed in that direction, and he could have powerbombed Fairplay anywhere that he wanted, but he turned his body and moved it to where Fairplay barely missed the microphone on the ground.
It did leave for a great visual, though, didn't it?
Yep. So before the main event, Tenay and West finally have their first on camera, which was the first time that Mike Tenay, the lead announcer on the show, told us what tonight's main event was going to be. Now, like I mentioned, Hudson said it earlier in passing, but if you were zoning out, you'd have no fucking idea what the main event was. You might even think it was Jeff Jarrett versus AJ Styles for the world title. So they plugged the countdown show of all things before they showed ICP showing up in the crowd to hang out with their annoying ass fans. And I'm like, maybe this will inspire them to finally stop hijacking the show.
Spoiler alert, it doesn't.
Yep. So they plug a couple shows here. They plugged the America's X Cup on February 11th without again mentioning the 8 people involved in it. Now would have been a good time to reiterate who the teams were. Hell, now would also have been a good time to reiterate what the rules were. Although I get you have some time. We still have 3 weeks. You know, they could plug the rules next week and the week after to drive them home. But now would have been a good time to really get over who the teams were. And then they tell us next week we're going to have Chris Sabin versus Michael Shane for the X Division title. 3 Live Crew returns from being absent for like a month to defend the tag titles against the Red Shirts. And Eric Watts versus Don Callis with the loser losing his power. And the funny thing is, I think the winner never appears on this show ever again, at least for like 13 years. I don't know. Does the winner show up on February 4th? I don't know. But if he does, he's not on much longer than that.
Both of them show up on the February 4th show.
Well, I know Watts is here for another year because he's involved in the DDP Raven feud, which, yes, DDP, for those who don't remember, was in TNA at the end of 2004.
And the only reason that he stopped going to TNA was he flat out retired or semi-retired.
Yeah. Oh, Watts. Well,
no,
I was going to say
DDP.
Callis, but DDP. Callis got a real job, but DDP actually stopped going because, I mean, if we keep doing this long enough, we'll get to it. But he had a problem doing jobs, which is kind of weird considering, you know, he's in the twilight of his career. And of all the people in the world who suddenly have issues doing jobs, it's Diamond Dallas Page.
I think his WWF/E run kind of solidified that. And as a side note, we'll probably be doing the show on Sunday.
Okay.
Because there's now 17-10 Rams.
Well, no one comes back from a 1 touchdown deficit, you know. So, by the way, when the hell was the last time 3 Live Crew wrestled on this show? And I don't want to hear they're on Explosion. They're the tag team champions. I think the last time they wrestled was when they had that AMW match at the end of 2003. Which again is only... I know that's 3 shows ago, you know, because they skipped 2 weeks. But because they skipped 2 weeks, that was 5 weeks ago. And the funny thing is, like, until this week, I don't even think they had a promo all year.
They had the concert on the first show of the year.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't appear on the January 11th show.
Yeah. The 14th.
Yeah.
So Scott Hudson is now with Eric Watts, who told El Canutillo to kill Jeff Jarrett. He then told Goldilocks to stay in the back next week. And considering everyone else in the company is allowed at ringside as long as they're handcuffed to somebody, why does Goldilocks have to stay backstage? Why can't she be handcuffed to Trinity, for instance?
Right. And by the way, it
Uh,
was the January 7th show was the last time they wrestled that we actually saw, or i.e.,
who the
you
hell did
actually give a shit about.
who the hell did they wrestle?
Diamond and Swinger.
Oh yeah, because Simon and Swinger won that match against AJ and D'Lo Brown, where the winners could get any title match they wanted, and Jeremy Borash decided for them. Um, so Eric Watts mentions that Brian Urlacher of the Chicago Bears will be here next week for what turns out to be a famous angle. But before that could even sink into your brain, like Don Callis immediately ran up and began yelling at Watts, and they got pulled apart by the black shirts. Or are they still the black shirts? Do they have a space between black and shirt, or are they like the red shirts where it's all just one word now?
I don't fucking care.
And Brian Urlacher is going to be on the show next week. He is a fucking NFL, you know, I don't want to say star at this point, but he's a pretty big deal. He's a pretty big named NFL player at this point. And it gets mentioned in passing for like here. And like we said again, it's immediately taken over. And it doesn't get mentioned again the rest of the show.
I mean, that's pretty big. I mean, Urlacher in that season was pretty darn good.
Yeah. And he's gonna be on he's gonna be in some trouble next week. We'll just say that. But by the way, I don't know if you've caught on. I began calling El Leon El Canutillo, which is Spanish for the Gimp.
Yeah, I listened to it on the last show. That was like, good
Yes.
fucking lord.
Well, what would you say? He's wearing a Gimp mask.
I would have called him the blank.
By the way, in my mind, I'm still trying to picture what Apollo looks like, and in my mind, I'm seeing Sonny Siaki's head on top of Apollo's body, which I don't even think is that far off either. Um, so we get NWA World Champion Jeff Jarrett versus El Leon in a street fight, a no disqualification, anything goes street fight. Now, Jarrett, TNA has put out some shitty merchandise, and Jeff Jarrett's coming out wearing the original black and white TNA shirt with the old TNA logo. That's like Wednesdays will never be the same. Because the only other shirt I think they ever did for TNA was that one that the only person who ever fucking wears it is the Sandman. The one that says I smacked it raw. I want more TNA. Has anybody ever worn that shirt other than the Sandman?
No.
And it's like I'm pretty sure Sandman wears it unironically too.
Of course. I mean, what was he doing before doing TNA stuff? He had to be working XPW. So instead of actually getting paid, he was paid in porn. I mean, New
I'm
Jack.
sure he was also in MLW because what's his name? Court Bauer was booking all the ECW guys for that too.
But at least Court Bauer knew how to use them. Rob Black didn't.
I'm fairly certain, and while I haven't gotten to late 2003 yet in my ROH viewing, I'm gonna bet you my left arm the Sandman does not wrestle in Ring of Honor, even though Gabe, was jerking off to the ECW guys himself at this point too. But anyway, Jarrett during his entrance went over and yelled at the Juggalos, which felt like a bit of a shoot. It felt like it was something Jarrett has been wanting to do for the last 1 hour and 42 minutes. Um, to try to distract the wrestling fans from the Juggalos, Jarrett apparently allowed El Leon to hit him as hard as he could. They fought by the announce desk, and Tenay shoved Jarrett, which was called a preemptive strike, since Jarrett had choked Tenay multiple times recently. Jarrett apparently understood this and accepted that turnabout was fair play, as he concentrated on Leon until he concussed the guy with a chair shot, and then Jarrett shoved Tenay. To be fair, Jarrett only shoves Tenay this week. He didn't choke him. Whether or not Leon was okay with it, Jarrett then had no problem hitting him as hard as he could either. They fought into the crowd, where Jarrett told the Juggalos to fuck off, and so the ICP and the Juggalos threw what looked like a gallon of soda onto Jarrett. Like,
It was
that guy took a fucking shower in soda at this point.
Tanay called it the Fago bath.
Yes, apparently there is an actual brand name of ICP soda. I am a lifelong soda drinker. I had no fucking idea the Insane Clown Posse had their own soda. Is it even their own soda, or is this is the soda they like?
It's the soda that they have for their gimmick. It's a national brand. I see it at the local Shell station or Jackson's or whatever the fuck it's called. I've never drinking a Fago in my life.
I say if I ever saw that, I assumed it was like the dollar store soda, and I don't mind drinking dollar store like Mountain Dew or dollar store Sprite, because by and large it all basically tastes the same.
Yeah,
Dollar store Coke just tastes nasty.
I mean, Shasta, the Dollar Trees over here like have Shasta Cola, so it's something.
So I don't know if whether or not they were actually supposed to do that, because when the wrestlers immediately went back to the ring, you could see that entire section's attention turn off camera, where my guess is the real security got involved here, because the Insane Clown Posse people shut the fuck up the rest of the show. And also, like I said, their entire attention was diverted away from the ring. So something was happening. Dave Meltzer thought there might have been some fights going on in the crowd, but I think if there were fights in the crowd, more people than just the Juggalo people would have been watching it. But yeah, and by the way, when I say the real security, I mean the real security, not the Chris Vaughn security. Anyway, Jeff Jarrett grabbed the guitar. And then Mike Tenay decided that in this no disqualification, anything goes street fight, Jeff Jarrett, a man who has hit every fucking person he's ever wrestled with a guitar since 1999, Mike Tenay decided that a guitar was too much. He got out of his seat and grabbed it from Jarrett, which let El Leon hit the sky high for a near fall. Doesn't he know that's D'Lo Brown's move? Jarrett then threatened Tenay, so Leon super kicked him for a near fall. Doesn't he know that's Michael Shane, CM Punk, and Julio Dinero's move? Jarrett still got the guitar and broke it over Leon's head. This time, Tenay didn't stop him. And then, in case all of this didn't scream, "This is TNA," AJ Styles ran in and hit Jeff Jarrett with a phenomenal forearm. And before I could make a joke about the phenomenal forearm, the referee was channeling his inner hockey referee and said,
"You can't do that."
And he decided that AJ Styles interfering meant that this match had to be thrown out. That was too much. This match ended in a no contest. The no disqualification street fight ended in a no contest. As we've documented before, this is not the first time they've done this. And when they did it the first two times, my joke was that only one person is allowed to interfere in a no DQ match, but when that second person interferes, that's when it's a no contest. And sure enough, AJ Styles, being the second person to interfere, made this a no contest.
Thanks, Mike Tenay. Wait a minute. No, scratch
Mike
that.
Mike Tenay didn't get up and scream, that they need to restart the match because of interference. Did you notice?
Yeah.
And I didn't count the Insane Clown Posse and their gallon of soda
All right.
interfering. But yeah. So then Abyss, because where the hell has he been? Abyss ran in. A table somehow got set up, and Abyss gave Styles a press slam out of the ring through the table, which was a nasty bump, but at least a smarter bump than that time Ryan Wilson one of heaved Rick Santel halfway up the ramp and fucked up his elbow and shoulder. And also a safer bump than when X did the Senton Atomico off the top rope onto the hard wooden ramp. And of course, because again, the focus of the show can't be the wrestlers or even the people having a match next week in the main event. The finish was that Jarrett yelled that when Callis wins, Watts, AJ Styles, and Mike Tenay are all fired, and the show ends with Mike Tenay screaming that it'll be a cold day in hell when he loses his job.
See you in Destination America era TNA, Tenay.
He'll be begging to leave his job then.
Oh, hell yeah.
I I I still ended up thinking this match, even with the dumbass finish, was the best match on the show, but barely. I gave it a 5.0 out of 10.
I my appetite for brawls and just Jeff Jarrett main events is minimal right now.
They get used to it because this man is going to be all over TNA and in main events until October 2006.
I know, but stuff like this is awful. So I gave it a 2 out of 10.
I am not pro cancer, but Jeff Jarrett leaving because his wife had cancer was, in many ways, one of the best things to happen to at least the main event scene of this company. So that was TNA. So as I promised, we're going to tell you what is the TNA news this week. And you can guess what the lead story of TNA is: the Insane Clown Posse and their fans. Apparently, they told fans they were coming to the show to party before the show began, and so they had all of their people come with them. Now, I refrained from being too angry by them during the show because I wanted to see the paid attendance because I figured, okay, while they still shouldn't be hijacking the show, if it turned out the 100 or so people that came bought tickets, I'd be like, okay, they have contributed something to the company. Like it's $10 a head or whatever, but they contributed, the Insane Clown Posse contributed $1,000 to the company's coffers. I would say, okay, I'm not going to hate on them as much. They did not pay. They were part of the free people that got into the show. And so, fuck all those juggalos. And if my memory of reading Dave's reports of these shows are accurate, this is not their last appearance. I personally am gobsmacked that they didn't find a way, like during the between match video packages or even before the pay per view went live, because I'm going to bet Explosion this week is remarkably similar to this. It is shocking to me that they did not say something to those fans. You know, do you remember when the Spike TV representative told off the Impact Zone fans that time? You know,
Yeah.
because they were, being all smart marky assholes, and he called them cast members. And a lot of people point to that as to when, the Impact Zone fans stopped giving a fuck. Like, there is a nicer way to say that to these fucking people. Like, this show isn't about you. You, especially you, didn't pay to come. So stop trying to fucking make the show about you. I assume you have no thoughts about that.
Well, it's 100% correct for on your end. I
Yeah.
just am. Ugh.
If you actually pay for your ticket, well, it's still an asshole move to hijack the show, especially if it's not even in the vein of what's going on in the show. It's like you're still an asshole. But if you pay for your ticket, you at least get a little bit of leeway, you know. But they didn't, so fuck off, people.
Mhm.
Now, the news that you were undoubtedly waiting for. Vince Russo was, in fact, part of the writing of this show. However, from all accounts, this is a new Vince Russo. First of all, he is not on the writing team. He simply gives suggestions to Jarrett and Dutch, and it is up to Jarrett and Dutch whether or not to use them. And he is said to not care or not put up a fight if they don't use his suggestions. And it is said that Russo is far more calm than he has ever been before, and he is telling people that he is born again. So that gimmick is starting. And then TNA met with their talent this week and told them that moving forward, each month the four shows are going to consist of 3 live shows and 1 taped show, which, as we know, ends up being the X Cup every month. And right now, the plan for March is Team TNA versus Team Puerto Rico. Spoiler, that's not what happens.
Neither team gets featured in March. It becomes Team Mexico versus Team Canada. And
Are you
I can't
sure?
wait.
Are you sure it's
I
Canada, not Japan?
oh
I know
I'm
they do one versus England, which sucked. And then I thought the other one was Japan.
and I can't wait to talk about the March one, which is Mexico versus Canada. Because what happened backstage at that show mirrored something that happened 19 years into the future.
Isn't it? I guess, yeah, because Teddy Hart is on there.
Yeah.
And yeah. All right. So final ratings for this show. Match quality, we somehow managed to get it all the way up to a 3.9. Overall enjoyment. I was torn on this. I gave it a 2.5, but I was honestly thinking, even if the Juggalos were not on this show, how much did I really like this show otherwise? Because this show, it wasn't quite the frenetic pace of a Vince Russo show, but there were definitely points where I had to press pause in order to write everything that just happened before we could move on to the next segment. Um, which is one of those Vince Russo tropes where things have to constantly be happening.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this show was bad either way, and the Juggalos just make me want to punch every clown I ever see again. Future build, I think I was a little generous with this, but I gave it a 4.0. They're finally paying off the never-ending Eric Watts Don Callis saga next week. With that said, I'm not exactly jumping for joy over the match itself, but especially since you're basically telling us the entire roster is going to be at ringside for the match, there will at least be a lot of overbooking and a lot of, shenanigans to help distract you from what will not be a 5-star wrestling match.
I'm
And
not
so I
sure
gave
it'll be a
this
0.5 star wrestling match.
Well, I gave this show a overall rating of a 3.47.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Let's see. I'm just gonna sit here and count these off here. How many of these shows are left? So 1, 5,
this was show
9,
79.
14, 18, 22, 27,
35
31.
left.
Nope, 33. There are 33 shows between now and September 8th. So we're just going to count them off one at a time here, people. September 8th cannot come fast enough.
Supposedly, this gets better once Impact starts, and maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
We'll see. Anywho. So, any final thoughts on this show?
I'll be glad once we get a. It makes me miss the blaseness of the not paid audience that we normally get. I mean, at least they're in there because it's not cold. They're out of the cold
There you go.
or sweltering heat if it's September, if it's the summer.
Alrighty, well, that's going to do it for this week's shit-tacular show. Before we go, you want to say anything else to our fine listener?
Yeah, at least JCW, the modern day, is somewhat decent, and that has Russo's writing in it.
I still can't believe that you managed to plug that damn thing every week here on this show at this point. I'm going to stop asking you to plug stuff at the end of the show. You keep plugging the Insane Clown Posse. All right. Well,
Don't worry,
that's
I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop plugging it because I'll have something better in the future.
fun. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's show. Thank you all for listening. Hope you all enjoyed the show. And we'll talk to you again in 7 days.
Dear Lord, the Bears are blowing it again.